What's happening, Who Dat Nation? Welcome into today's show. I'm your host, Trace Girouard. I will shortly be joined by Abby Alonso. Got no producer. I'm pushing the buttons and talking because, hey, we ain't scared of making some good content. Today's show, we are discussing whether or not the Saints should go and get Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo in NFL free agency, as they are two of the top names in the NFL free agent market, two of the top quarterback options. So I want you guys to let me know before we even get anything started, before we even put any information, any takes, any thoughts that we have out, I want you to weigh in and let me know. Pick a quarterback. Type DC for Derek Carr. Type JG for Jimmy Garoppolo. And without further ado, let's talk some Saints free agency targets. So the case for Derek Carr and why we think that Derek Carr might be a good option for the New Orleans Saints. There's familiarity with Dennis Allen, and he will have a good supporting cast with good receivers, good offensive line, a solid defense that he can rely on, and a lot of other tools around him. I also believe that the Saints have, or well, I don't believe, I know for a fact, and anyone can look at it, the Saints have been the most active in Derek Carr's market, and this would allow Derek Carr to have an easy path to the playoffs because at the end of the day, the NFC South is a joke. And I think that the Saints should go and try and get him because of these reasons. And Abby, I know you have a few other reasons why you think that Derek Carr could be a fit in New Orleans as well.
Yeah, so here are some of those reasons. I mean, starting off really strong, he's just going to be a game changer, and that's because you've come from so much inconsistency. We haven't figured it out this past season, the season before that. There's been so many quarterbacks just kind of flipping in and out that he's a veteran. He's led a team before. He's going to come in and he'll be that game changer that the Saints are looking for. The decision is sounding like it's going to come within the week, hopefully, because this has been a long, drawn-out process that I think everyone is tired of, including Trace and I.
Absolutely.
We would love an answer. So within the week, that's great. Give it to us. He can help recruit players in free agency. We saw him do this with Davante Adams to the Raiders. Now, it won't be Davante Adams to New Orleans, unfortunately, but he's a very pristine quarterback that people respect, other players respect, they want to play with. That should help the Saints out in free agency. We know that his family was here for the ride. His wife met Dennis Allen and the staff and kind of hung out with the guys on their tours. So family's involved now. Everything seems like it's just about to fall into place. And I think it's just a matter of time before we hear that Derek Carr is a Saint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Derek Carr could be a very valuable quarterback for the Saints to get this offseason. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and say this, guys. If you want Derek Carr in New Orleans, please go down and type Who Dat. And if you don't, let me know who you would rather have at the quarterback position, because you know, there's also some pretty good free agents. There's some good draft guys. There's some trade targets. There's a lot of quarterback moves that could be going on this offseason. But if you want Derek Carr in New Orleans, type Who Dat in the comment section. And also, don't miss out, because according to the bosses, we got him in our ears. He was telling us before we came and filmed. James Yoder said, hey, we might have to go to subscriber-only mode on March 15th. That is when NFL free agency officially begins. The tampering period starts on March 13th, and we're going to be locked in, loaded, and ready to go with a ton of content for you during NFL free agency. So please subscribe. Do not miss out. You do not want to miss out if it's sub-only, because if it's sub-only, you're not getting videos. You're not going to be able to interact with the content. So subscribe, lock us in, and join the squad so you never miss a thing. All right, Abby, so I also saw this interesting write-up from Jeremy Fowler on Derek Carr, and I wanted to just kind of get your thoughts on all of this and see what you had to say. So this coming in from Jeremy Fowler on an ESPN article. The New Orleans Saints remain motivated to sign quarterback Derek Carr, who will take his free agency into next week. New Orleans believes it has made a compelling case to Carr. With some solid pass-catching targets, a good defense, and a chance to play in a dome at least 10 games per season, Carr is prioritizing the right fit. And once he commits to that, a potential contract will be hashed out. Garoppolo should be a viable backup plan for the Saints if things don't work out. this is also an interesting addition to that report. The New York Jets and Carolina Panthers remain interested in Derek Carr too, but it's more complicated with them due to the Jets' interest in Aaron Rodgers and the Panthers' chance to solve their quarterback position once and all in the draft at that number 9 overall selection. Carolina is lurking here with a follow-up call with Derek Carr. Early this week, the Panthers are a factor, and at least 2 other teams have reached out to Derek Carr in recent weeks. So it's a pretty interesting update. It's pretty juicy stuff. Like, I'm not even sure who these other 2 teams could possibly be, but Carolina being lurking in the shadows is actually pretty interesting to me. I'm curious what you think.
No, it is, but I think, as Fowler put it, they have that number 9 overall pick, and you've got C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson prove themselves at the Combine. So I'm not sure that Derek Carr is their first option. I think they're kind of like, all right, maybe we want to go somewhere in the draft with hopefully get a young guy who can come in and be here for a while, but we're going to keep tabs on Derek Carr because that's not a bad option either. I think most of the NFL world has come to terms with, okay, it really looks like Carr is going to be down in New Orleans. Not that it's a game over type of thing. I think people are, like I said, still keeping tabs on him. But I think Carolina will lean more towards the draft.
Absolutely. I agree with you as well. I mean, there's a lot of hype around a guy like Anthony Richardson. Could Will Levis, could Bryce Young fall? A lot of things could happen because it was an interesting NFL combine. It was an interesting scouting combine. We have pro days. We have a lot more things to come. And so we'll see how the quarterback draft shakes out. But, Abby, if you want to explain the case for Jimmy G, because this is kind of an interesting thought process over here.
So, I mean, he would, in New Orleans, he would have a better situation than he would with the Raiders. Just Vegas is
it's a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
That's the best way to put it. I'm not saying the Saints have everything figured out, but they're kind of piecing things together a little bit better than what Vegas is doing. So it would be a better place for him to be as a quarterback. Look, Garoppolo has done good things in his career.
Absolutely.
He would not be a bad quarterback to lead this team at all. And there are reasons to believe that Dennis Allen needs to win to keep his job. I think that is very well known. I think everyone is on the same page with that. A lot of people were calling for him to be out after this one season. So I would say he's on the hot seat. He's got a lot to prove this season, and I think he's going to do all that he can to make sure that he wins to keep his job. And then the other thing, the Saints invested heavily in their O-line. So Jimmy G is not a bad option here either. I think when you compare Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo, you kind of have a little bit similar of a comparison there because they're both veteran quarterbacks who are being questioned on whether they still have it. Can they still lead a team? Are they able to come in and revamp a franchise? Both of them are in the same boat here. Yes, they're different quarterbacks, but they're both kind of trying to prove something. I think the Saints are going to go with who's going to win them more games, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, and like you said in that on that graphic, he's a proven winner. Jimmy G has a lot of wins. He knows how to win games. He knows how to come in clutch in the fourth quarter. It's kind of incredible, and we have those stats that we're going to discuss later. But for me, my biggest concern is Jimmy Garoppolo's health. He just cannot stay healthy for the life of him, and it's unfortunate because he's a good player whenever he plays. It's just whenever he can't, which seems to be a lot more often than not.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. This is the breakdown of the games that he started versus the games that he missed over the last few years. So in 2018, 3 starts, 13 missed games. In 2019, he had 16 starts and 0 missed, which is awesome. But in 2020,
kind of waves.
Yeah, it's up and down. It's inconsistent. And obviously, any football player that has injuries, you have to be concerned about. And I know that some people in the comment section say, well, you're concerned about injuries for Jimmy G, but not Hendon Hooker? Well, here's my situation with Hendon Hooker. He's a lot younger. He's a lot cheaper. And at the end of the day, I think that you have a lot more you could do with a dual threat quarterback like Hooker versus Jimmy G. Again, I'm not saying that we don't think that Jimmy G is a bad option. It just feels like the injuries are such a problem.
It's something to think about.
100%.
When you're making a decision like this, you're trying to bring in a quarterback. Like, that is the biggest position on the field. You have to take all of this into account. So yes, injury history is huge. And when you are between a couple different guys, you have to weigh the pros and the cons, and that absolutely comes into play.
Absolutely. And if honestly, I don't think any of this is going to happen right this second. I don't think anything's going to happen today. I don't think anything's going to happen tomorrow. But per the reports that I've seen, per the things that the chatter, the buzz that I've seen online and on Twitter, it feels like the deal could happen within the next week or so soon. But I expect once Aaron Rodgers picks decides what he's doing, whether it's retires, go back to the Packers, go to the Jets, whatever. Once that happens, the dominoes are going to start falling. So I expect Aaron Rodgers to pick his team. And then depending on where that is, that's going to make the Saints sign Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo, or the Jets are going to have to jump in and move if they miss Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders.
That's everybody's kind of waiting on
Aaron
to
Rodgers.
Decide what he wants to do, because it's going to affect. There's so many teams that need quarterbacks or don't necessarily need them, but kind of are looking at options right now. And as soon as Aaron Rodgers decides what he is going to do, you are going to see moves start to be made all over the place because of how many teams are relying on him to do something. It's crazy. I have no clue where he'll end up. I didn't think it would be Green Bay, but now there's word that he is staying in Green Bay. I don't know. He was in a dark room for a few days. We haven't heard anything since. So at this point, it's a circus. So I don't know. Where will Aaron Rodgers play in 2023? Please let me know, because I don't have a freaking clue.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no idea. But what I do have an idea about is you can get geared up, swagged out, iced out, and cleaned up if you go to chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. You can get any jersey that we have. We have all Nike, all authentic, no shiesties, no fugazis, no nonsense. You can get Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, Chris Olave, Drew Brees, Alontae Taylor, Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, Demario Davis. I mean, I could just keep on going if I really wanted to, but I'm not. Point being, we're going to have the link in the comment section and the description of this video to get geared up with an authentic Saints Nike jersey. Chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. Get geared up today. Use our link so that way Fanatics knows that we sent you. So here is where the argument will be made. This graphic right here is where I think a lot of people are going to decide whether or not they want Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo. So an interesting thing about Derek Carr, his record 63-79 compared to Jimmy Garoppolo has a record of 40-17. The completion percentage, 64.6% for Derek Carr. A little bit better on Jimmy G's side, but he's thrown a lot less passes in game and played a lot less games, so that's worth noting. Yards-wise, though, Derek Carr has got him about a little more than doubled, 35,222 yards. Jimmy Garoppolo, 14,289 yards. Touchdowns to interception ratio for Derek Carr, 217-99. Jimmy Garoppolo, 87-42. And right here, this last point, this right here is where things can get crazy, and where I think I might even take back some of the things that I've thought in the past videos. The playoff record means something to me. The 0-1 playoff record, you've only made it one time and you lost in the wild card round. You go to Jimmy Garoppolo, however, he has gone to multiple NFC championships, a Super Bowl, and an overall playoff record of 4-2. My overall thing about this is you can't deny Jimmy Garoppolo's playoff success. And Abby, I'm curious as to what you have to say.
Well, I want to bring up, we just read off all those stats, right? And Derek Carr is the yards, the touchdowns, less interceptions, more games played. So yeah, Jimmy G hasn't played as many games. Of course, his numbers are going to be lower. Playoff record is important, but it's also important the coaching and the roster.
Yes.
And if you look at where Jimmy G has been placed versus Derek Carr, those are completely different situations. So, yes, playoff records are important, but you have to take into account who was coaching. Kyle Shanahan is magical.
Yep.
And who was on the roster. And not just this year, but the 49ers have had pretty good success over the past couple years.
They've had
the Raiders are just really...
They can't stay out of trouble.
Trying to figure it out. I don't even know.
They can't stay out of trouble at this point. It's kind of a joke. But we have to acknowledge the argument and the
Yeah.
BS thing that everyone who doesn't understand football and everyone who doesn't watch Saints football will say. The Saints have no money. They're broke. They can't sign a Derek Carr. They can't sign Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh.
Like, here's the thing.
Let me tell you.
Kai Harley, Mickey Loomis,
I was about to
and
say.
the gang have been busy.
They're working.
They have been busy, Abby. Marcus May, Eric McCoy, Ryan Ramczyk, and Will Lutz all started things off with getting their salaries adjusted, some salary cap moves being made there. Tyrann Mathieu, he gets restructured to a $4.68 million hit this year. Demario Davis and Taysom Hill, this coming in from Field Yates yesterday. We made a YouTube short on it, so if you missed it, I don't know what to tell you. We're killing it on the shorts game over here, me and Abby. Demario Davis and Taysom Hill both had their salaries converted from their base salary into a signing bonus, which cleared up $12.724 million in cap space. So right now, as it stands on Sunday, March 5th, the Saints are about $18 million from being cap compliant, meaning that they can go and sign some players. So with all of this in consideration, we want to ask you again. Pick a quarterback. Did your options change? Did your mind change? Or not did your options, but did your mind change? Did your opinion get altered by some of the stats, by the playoff record, by the numbers they put up, by the teams that they had around them? I'm curious as to what you guys think. Let me know in the comments section. Do you want Derek Carr or do you want Jimmy Garoppolo? And for us, our pick, drum roll please, it's going to have to be Derek Carr. We've been saying Derek Carr all offseason. We've been saying it for a few weeks now. We think that Derek Carr is the best option to be the Saints starting quarterback in 2023. That doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't be a good option.
Right.
That also doesn't mean that the Saints shouldn't go and get somebody in the draft.
Right.
I still think that those are things you have to prioritize at the end of the day. But what I will say is I think right now as it stands, the best fit for the Saints in terms of their culture, in terms of winning games, getting back into the postseason, and getting back to New Orleans Saints football, I think Derek Carr is the guy to make that happen.
I said this earlier in the week. I think we're looking for a bridge guy, a transition to the next franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think Derek Carr, knowing Dennis Allen, it looks like he's fitting the culture. You heard Drew Brees, Demario Davis come out and speak highly of him. I think this is the guy to kind of fill the gap, transition over to hopefully the next franchise quarterback that either comes in the draft or this year or maybe next year. But I think Derek Carr is the right guy for the job right now.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. But, guys, we hope you had a wonderful weekend. We hope you guys have a wonderful week coming up. We appreciate all of y'all for sticking around, tuning in, and hanging out with us. If you made it to the end of today's video, type real one so that way we know you guys made it. I'll give you a special shout-out later in this week. Who Dat Nation, y'all stay golden. We'll have our social links in the comment section and in the description. Feel free to hit us up. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.